Hello, Keith Rucker at VintageMachinery.org. Back to scraping on the lathe, trying to get this cross slide all finished up here. We've already got the bottoms of it done here. All that's been scraped in on the turkite. The next step is going to be doing this inside dovetail on the non-gib side. We need to get that scraped in, and once that's done, we need to scrape the gib in on the other side. And hopefully this thing will be running nice and smooth when we're done. So let's get in here and just get at it. So in this situation, what we're doing is we're going to use this inside dovetail. This is what we're going to be using as our reference surface. Again, that's already been scraped in. It's already been checked to make sure it's flat all the way down using a straight edge. But what I need to do now is come in here and we're going to blue this up. And it's kind of hard to get in here. I've just got a little foam brush here that's got the blue on it. And I'm just going to kind of get in here and we'll get it dabbed on down up inside that bottom dovetail all the way down like such. And then we'll come in here. When I brought that in, I'm actually kind of running it over here where I'm not touching it yet, but now I'm going to bring it in contact. I'm going to put some pressure on this side, just not a whole lot, but just a little bit. And we'll slide it back and forth a couple of times. Transfer some blue and bring it off. All right. I'll try to get a shot where y'all can see that. That's it's going to be difficult to see though at this angle. But let me get over on the bench and we'll see what we can do. Let y'all look at that. I've got this thing mounted in a vise. It's actually over my woodworking bench. This was the only vise I had that would open up big enough to put this in here, but got it held in place pretty well. And if you look back here in the back, you can see some blue, and pretty much all of the blue is kind of in the back. It kind of starts back here, gets down a little bit heavier in here. So that's telling me that my angles aren't quite matching up. And of course we scraped that other piece in, so I'm sure that changed the angle just a little bit. And as it looks like it's hitting on the top but not on the bottom. So that's where we're going to scrape. We're going to scrape the blue off. And I'm basically just doing roughing right now, just trying to get some metal out of there until we get some good contact all the way across. Now I'm going to be actually hand scraping here instead of using a power scraper. It's just such a small, tight area to get into. It's going to be easier to get in here with my hand scraper. And I've got a little narrow cutter on here, and I actually have the top of this it's only sharp on one side. The top is kind of ground off, and that allows me to get back in that dovetail without hitting the top too bad. So anyway, we're going to get in here and start scraping. Because I know I've got a lot to go here, I'm going to go ahead and hit it in the opposite direction while I'm in here. I'm just trying to get metal out right now till we can get it spot. And I'm going to have to move the camera to do that, but I'm just going to come in here and go ahead and come across that way as well. I've been a couple of cycles here, and we're still pretty much kind of spotting in the back, but I am starting to know the blues, starting to notice the blues coming down. And again, what this is indicating to me is that my geometry on this piece isn't matching the other one. And if you remember on the cross slide, we actually took that to the milling machine, put the angle back in there, milled the proper angle back in there from wear and what have you, and then it was scraped in from there. So it's not surprising to me that the angles are not an exact match anymore. They're real close. I mean, we're not talking a mile. We're having to move this metal, but right now we're just trying to get those angles to match back up. So again, I'm just kind of concentrating on those high spots right now, and we're just kind of scraping it out of there. So we'll make another round here. I'm trying not to scrape across the whole face. I'm just trying to hit that back there because that's the high spot. I'm not trying to make an even cut. You're trying to make a layered cut because we want to take that metal out of the back, but we don't want to take it off the bottom because we need that metal. All right, and because we are having to move it so far, I'm going to go ahead and hit it again. I'm going to move the camera though. I'm just going after that crosshatch, so we scrape in one direction the one time, and then we come back and scrape in the other direction the second time. So again, I'm just going to kind of get some blue up in there. Put the cross slide on, bring it up against the way. Let's go see what we got. So that's a good sign. We're starting to pick up a little bit more blue across this face. Some of this I think is a smear down here, but I am getting some clear spotting going on, and just the fact that it's smearing down there is telling me that we're getting close. So anyway, we're going to come back in here, and I'm going to probably stop trying to take so much. Well, I'm probably going to try to take some more out of the top up here. It's not touching as much on this side now. So anyway, I'm just going to hit these little couple blue spots, and then we'll try to get in there real hard on the where it's a little bit darker and try to get it all brought in. Hard to get on that edge. I may have to scrape off that leading edge. Starting to get a little bit better coverage through here. We're still not quite where we want to be. A little bit heavy in here, not quite picking up down here on this end. So right now I'm just really concentrating on getting the coverage. Once we get good coverage from one end to the other, we'll start trying to get more points of contact. But right now it looks like we need to kind of concentrate in here, a little bit on that back still back there. That back's been very top up here. It's been kind of an area of contact throughout the process, but we're getting a lot closer. So let me just get in here and go ahead and knock these points out of here. All right, that's probably good. Clean that blue out of there. Then stone the burrs off. And go blue it up again. I'll bring you back when we get closer. Well, guys, I think I'm about ready to call this. I'll be honest with you, I've been very frustrated through this process of getting a good ink coat over on the cross slide, getting my applicator kind of up in that dovetail and getting an even application of the blue in there like I would do on a surface plate where you get that nice thin layer. It seems like every time I do it, it's either too thick or too thin, and you can really kind of see it. And honestly, every time I do this, I'm seeing something a little bit. I've gone over there and actually wiped it out and redone it. it's not being super uniform, and I think it just has to do with my application of the blue. But the bottom line is that I'm routinely getting good coverage from one end to the other. I really think that my points of contact are probably a little bit better than what's showing up here, just because of the difficulties I'm having over there with getting my bluing in there. But I'm happy with this. We're going to live with it. I think it's going to be just fine. We've got good coverage from one end to the other. I would like to maybe have a few more points per inch than what I'm seeing, but again, I kind of feel like it's there. It's just not inking up or bluing up exactly right. But I'm happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and start working on the other side and get the gib scraped in next. We're getting ready to start working on the gib, but before we do anything, I want to first just check this gib out. So, we're going to be scraping. If you look, well, first off, this gib is tapered. We've talked about that before. It's bigger on one than the other. And you adjust it up and down against the mating taper, which is on the cross slide itself, and that will tighten or loosen, make this the parallelism between the two dovetails wider or narrower, and you adjust it until it gets it right. But we want this side here. This is the side that actually will be rubbing against the inside way on the other piece. This back piece back here is just going to be sliding when you're adjusting it. So there's not really any wear of any significance on this side. So what I want to do is we want to make sure that this side is flat, and also we want to scrape it to match the contour over on the machine. But first thing I want to do is say, well, is it flat to start with? And we can test that really easily right here on the surface plate, just by hinging it. And we do this all the time, looking to find where the high spot is. Now, if something is flat, it should hinge about a third in from each end. Okay, so when I say hinge it, when I move this thing like this right here, it's going to rock on the high spot. And where's it? Where's the center of rotation? It's right in the middle. So that tells me that this part is high right here. Okay, and from this side, I'm going to just do the same thing. I would think it would be high on the end, so we're going to look and see where it hinges. It's hinging on the very end and on the very end. So, okay, what we have here is a bent gib. This is very common, that you see it all the time. So what we're going to do, we're going to bend it and straighten it out. So we have a good starting point before we start scraping over here. That way we're not starting by having to just hog a whole bunch of metal off this side right here to get things just to start with. So we're going to get it flat to start with, or as flat as we can. So let's go over here to the bench. I'm going to show you how I'm going to bend this gib. So before we start doing any bending, let's talk a bit more about the gib itself. This gib is actually made out of cast iron. It's not made out of steel. So people say, well, hang on a minute, you can't bend cast iron. You'd be surprised. Cast iron will bend a lot more than you think it will. And that's what we're going to do here. And, if we go too crazy on this, yeah, you might snap it in half, but we're not making huge moves here. This thing isn't out by a whole lot. So I've got it sitting up on the bench. I got some blocks under each end. I'm just going to take a C-clamp. We're going to come in here on the high spot, and we're just going to bend it down a little bit, okay? And this is going to be some trial and error. We're just going to have to go back and forth. I don't know if that's enough or not. So now we're going to go back over to the surface plate. We'll do our test again. We'll see where it's high, if it needs more bending, if it needs less bending. Did I go too far? You flip it over, you go the other way. And I'm not going to show all this on camera, but I am going to show you when we get it down to where it's flat again. So you see the process. One thing I want to point out here, and I forgot to do this up front, and I did it off camera, but you need to stone these surfaces to knock any burrs and stuff off of it. And I realized after I was doing this a couple of times that I had some burrs that was causing some hinge points that wasn't exactly being truthful on me. So I did stone these and just, like I said, get everything turned, burred down. I wasn't trying to, lap it or anything like that. Just trying to knock those burrs off and get everything on a nice even plane. And this is, again, the side that's going in up against the pieces. That's the surface that matters. And I'm hinging it. It's hinging about right here and about right here. So, that's telling me that this part is pretty flat across that face. Is it perfect? Probably not. But we're going to do the scraping to get there. So let's go back over here now. We're going to blue it up and see where we need to start taking some metal off. I've already got my dovetail in there blued up. So we're going to come in here. We will slide our part on. I've already got my stop in the back, was already still set from before. We'll make sure we're putting the side end that is needs to be up against the part. We'll slide this in, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten this in where it's nice and tight, adjusted. Where it moves, basically where we want it to be at. We might have to make some fine adjustments to this as we go. So let's get this screw put in. Okay. And now we will rub that back and forth a few times and pull the gib out. Now, probably going to have a lot of smearing on this first one just because there are no scrape marks. Everything is more or less flat. And so we do see some high spots, but what I'm going to do now is we're going to take it over to the bench and we will start scraping this out. And honestly, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to hit these areas where I know we're getting some contact, and then I'm going to go back again. I'm just going to put a crosshatch pattern on here and we'll start scraping it in. So let's go over here to the bench and get that going. Work holding here is the biggest challenge. I got it just kind of clamped down to the bench. I'm just going to do this by hand. I could use the biax on this and power scrape it, but we're going to just do it by hand. And I'm just going to start, like I said, by hitting these high spots. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a nice cross hatch on the whole thing. This crosshatch really kind of helps you see those high points better than if you just have a real smooth surface on there. So I'm going to have to move my block down here to the other side and we'll continue on. I've hit a little roadblock here and I've been kind of racking my brains trying to come up with a good solution to it, and I've kind of decided that this is probably going to be a good place to take a break and not rush into anything. Let me do a little bit of thinking on this and do some consulting with some folks and come up with a good game plan. But let me show you what's going on. So I've been scraping on the gib. The scraping's coming in good, but I kept noticing I was having some weird things going on, and I finally figured out what's been giving me the problem. So I'm going to put the gib in and go ahead and tighten it up. All right, we got that snug. And I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more. Show you what's going on here. So if you look down here, nice and tight, okay? Come up to the other end. My gib is apparently worn more on one end than it is the other. And I'm supposed to put an indicator on there. All right, so I got it pretty much pushed back up here. We're at 0. Yeah, we got about, what was that, 13 thousandths? Pretty significant amount of rocking in there. So my issue here is that the shape of my gib does not match what's going on here. And I'm not exactly sure why this is happening because we really didn't change the taper into this at all. I haven't really scraped that much off of it. I guess it's just wear from the way it was before. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but regardless, it's going on and we're gonna have to deal with it. So what's the game plan right now? I think my game plan right now is I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna think about this. I'm actually gonna talk to a couple of folks. I'm going to consult with a couple of people. I'm going to probably talk to Richard King and a couple other people. The way I see it, at least initially, without putting a whole lot of thought in this, I got a couple of options. Number one, I can grind the back of that gib. I'll have to figure out my taper exactly right. Put it on the surface grinder. I'll have to grind about 15 thousandths off of this end, or 12, 13 thousandths, whatever it is off of this end. Leave this end of the gib alone, and basically get the taper correct again. That's one option. Now, I'm afraid, though, that when I take that much off of this end, that I may not have enough adjustment. I'm not sure. Another option is we make a new gib. And right now, initially, that's kind of the direction I'm leaning. But again, I just want to talk to a couple of people. We might even be able to somehow put a shim behind the gib up here, because this backside is not moving. It's not like it's sliding a lot. We might just be able to put a shim behind it and be able to take the wear out that way. So anyway, I'm going to talk to a couple of people, come up with a good game plan, and we're just going to take a break from this right now and come back and after I have a chance to really kind of study this thing a little bit before we decide what we're going to do. So I guess for now, that's going to be a wrap on this episode. We're going to have to, like I said, just back up and punt here and study this a little bit. I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. I don't want to rush into this. So anyway, we're going to bring you back later on, let you know how we solved this problem. It's a solvable problem. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. So anyway, we'll bring you back later and finish up on this. And so with that, that's going to be a wrap. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Leave me a thumbs up if you like what you see. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.